Shocking news has shaken the music world. Ike Turner Jr., the son of Tina Turner and Ike Turner, has tragically passed away at the age of 67. What makes this devastating loss even more heartbreaking is the timing. His death came just one day after his birthday. For fans, for the music community, and for those who followed the complicated history of the Turner family, this story feels almost unreal. It's another tragic chapter in a family saga already filled with triumphs, scandals, and heartbreaking losses. Today, we'll dive into his life, his struggles, his legacy, and his final moments, a story that feels both personal and larger than life. Breaking news like this always stuns us, but in this case, the shock is especially chilling. Ike Turner Jr. had just celebrated his 67th birthday. Within 24 hours, he was rushed to a hospital in Los Angeles, where, despite doctors' efforts, he never made it out alive. His sudden passing has left fans grieving and the music world reflecting on a life that, though often overshadowed by his famous parents, held its own unique contributions. The timing alone, celebrating a birthday one day and passing away the next, has many calling it the ultimate tragedy. People are now asking, what really happened in those final hours? And how does this heartbreaking event connect to the long and complicated legacy of the Turner family? To understand why Ike Jr.'s death resonates so deeply, you have to go back to his beginnings. He wasn't just the child of famous parents. He was born into one of the most dramatic, turbulent, and often painful family stories in music history. His father, Ike Turner, is remembered as both a pioneer of rock and roll and a man with a deeply troubled, abusive past. His mother was Lorraine Taylor, but when Ike Sr. married Tina Turner, Tina stepped in to raise Ike Jr. as her own son. Imagine that dynamic. Your biological mother stepping out of the picture while your stepmother becomes the one raising you, all while you grow up under the blinding spotlight of two musical superstars. But as many people know, fame rarely translates to peace at home. Behind the glamour of the stage, the Turner household was filled with fights, abuse, and dysfunction. Ike Jr. himself once admitted that growing up as Tina's son was far from normal. On stage, she was a powerhouse, an unstoppable force, a queen of rock and roll. But behind closed doors, there was chaos, and children who grow up in environments like that carry those scars forever. That turbulent childhood, witnessing abuse, living in instability, shaped every part of Ike Jr.'s life. He wasn't just Tina Turner's son, or Ike Turner's boy. He was a kid trying to survive in the eye of one of music's most toxic storms. And yet, despite the trauma, Ike Jr. carved out his own path. He wasn't just content to live in his parents' shadows, he had talent, real talent. While his parents were front and center in the spotlight, Ike Jr. often worked behind the scenes as a musician and a sound engineer. In fact, he played a major role in keeping his father's music alive. Few people realize that he even contributed to his father's Grammy-winning album, Risin' with the Blues. That project went on to win in 2007, and Ike Jr.'s fingerprints were all over it. Still, despite his undeniable skills, recognition always eluded him. To the world, he remained Tina's son or Ike's kid, never fully Ike Turner Jr., the artist. That lack of recognition weighed heavily on him, leaving him in the shadows of the very legends who raised him. If professional frustrations weren't enough, his personal life brought even more heartache. His relationship with Tina grew complicated over the years. Despite the fact that she had raised him for much of his childhood, the distance between them deepened as time went on. Fame and circumstances pulled them apart, and Ike Jr. admitted more than once that he didn't see her as much in later years. That sense of being cut off from the woman who had once been his mother figure only added to his isolation. Imagine contributing to Grammy-winning music, dedicating your life to an art form, yet feeling invisible, even to those closest to you. That loneliness followed him everywhere, into his work, into his relationships, into his health. As the years passed, the spotlight faded further, but the struggles only grew. Ike Jr.'s health began to collapse, starting with heart problems that slowly drained his energy. Then came a devastating stroke earlier this year, a warning sign that his body was running out of time. Even so, he pushed forward, trying to live as normally as he could. But by September, friends and those close to him began noticing how frail he looked. Thinner, weaker, exhausted. Then came kidney failure. That was the breaking point. On October 4th, just one day after celebrating his 67th birthday, Ike Jr. was rushed to a hospital in Los Angeles. Machines were hooked up. Doctors did everything they could. But by then, his body had already given up. Within hours, he was gone. For his family and those who loved him, the news was crushing. Imagine celebrating your birthday, cake, calls from friends, maybe even quiet moments of reflection, and then being gone less than 24 hours later. It feels unreal. It feels cruel. But for the Turner family, tragedy has been an all too familiar presence. In 2018, Ike Jr.'s older brother Craig took his own life. Just 4 years later, in 2022, his younger brother Ronnie died of colon cancer. And now Ike Jr. himself is gone. 3 brothers, lost, one after another. To add to that, Tina Turner herself passed away in 2023, never living to see this latest heartbreak. In a way, perhaps that's a small mercy, that she didn't have to endure burying yet another son. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, Ike Turner Jr.'s life was more than just being the son of 2 music icons. He was a man who tried to navigate an impossibly complicated legacy. A man who carried scars from a chaotic childhood, but still found ways to contribute to music. A man who, despite his struggles, left behind work that touched people, even if his name wasn't always in the credits. Today, tributes are pouring in from fans and friends. They remember him not only for the music he helped create, but also for the quiet strength it took to keep going. Despite the tragedies that seemed to stalk his family at every turn, the Turner family gave the world some of the most unforgettable music of the 20th century, but their personal lives were filled with almost unbearable pain. With Tina gone, with Craig, Ronnie, and now Ike Jr. gone, their story feels like one of both soaring triumphs and devastating losses. And it leaves us with one final thought. These legends we admire, the families we think of as larger than life, are still human. They are still fragile. They still break. And maybe that's why this story matters. Because it reminds us of something we often forget, that life is unpredictable and tomorrow is never promised. It reminds us to celebrate the people we love while they're still here. So, if Ike Turner Jr.'s story touches you, let it be a reminder. Hold your loved ones close, say what you need to say, and never take a single day for granted. The music lives on, but the man behind it has gone too soon. And as we close this heartbreaking story, it's worth remembering that behind the headlines, behind the fame, behind the chaos, there are always human beings struggling, fighting, and sometimes falling. Ike Turner Jr.'s life was full of talent, full of pain, and full of moments that remind us just how fragile everything really is. His passing, especially so soon after his birthday, feels almost like a cruel twist of fate, but it also forces us to pause and reflect on our own lives and the people we care about. And if you've been moved by this story, if you believe these untold truths and hidden chapters of celebrity lives matter, then here's what you can do. Help us continue to tell them. Make sure you follow, like, share, and subscribe to Celeb Scoop 24/7, your go-to source for the real stories behind the fame. Every click, every share, every comment helps us bring you deeper into the lives of the people you think you know. This is the place where you'll find not just the glitz and glamour, but the raw drama, the shocking gossip, and the emotional truths that don't always make the front page. So don't just watch this video and move on. Join our community. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and be part of the conversation. Because here at Celeb Scoop 24/7, we're not just about reporting celebrity news. We're about uncovering the stories that shock you, inspire you, and keep you coming back for more.